That was a little bit more than 30 seconds, but let's get started. So today's lesson is about the ticketing module, and only that. It's going to be a somewhat quick walkthrough of what we have, and it's just the idea is for you, everybody watching now and later, to get an idea of what we can actually do with the ticketing module. So first of all, we've got a set of pages in Nav where we can set up the tickets. So it's built up of various of these general 5 pages, and the idea is that within these 5 pages we can set up how the ticket is printed, the validity of the ticket, what the guest has access to, when they have access, and a price for this access. With that, it of course means that you could have several prices for the same access or several different accesses that on different events and such. So my idea was that we're going to have a quick look in Nav and run through the pages, and after that we'll look at some examples from existing customers, and once we've had a look at how we set up the tickets in Nav, we'll have a look at the online tickets and how they're sold online and how the tickets are designed, and we'll end up with how we're buying the tickets and POS. And we'll take some questions at the end. So let's see if I've got this. Yeah, there we go. I just need to find my mouse. There it is. Good. So we'll take we'll have a look at Experimentarium, and as I said, the ticket type, as it says here, is the print choice and validity. So let's have a look at that. The ticket type is here, and there's a whole lot of different settings in this, so not to bore you too much, the idea is that we can set up these all kinds of different ticket types, and some are set for being printed and others are not. Some are set as group tickets and others are individual tickets. We've got a number series and an external ticket ID. This is the barcode which is generated on the tickets. We'll have a look at this later, how this looks like on actual tickets. And then we can decide when or how a ticket is activated. So there's a possibility of creating a ticket which is activated when you scan it. That would be usually for the web tickets, or if the tickets are sold separately from where you enter the museum. Then there's the POS, either the default admission or all admissions. I'll get back to what that means later. But that's the POS. Then in this scenario we could set it up so the tickets are activated on the sales. And finally, of interest here we have the duration of the ticket. So this ticket we're on now is valid for current year. The ticket, this one entry ticket is valid for 1 year, but the member visit ticket is valid for 1 day. And this doesn't have anything to do with when the guests can visit the museum. This is just about when the ticket is actually considered valid within the system. Yes. So once we've set up the print choice and the validity of it, we want to decide what the guest has access to, and we'll do that in the ticket admission. And again, we'll go back to Experimentarium. The ticket admission is what you have access to. So that could be a location or an event. A location would most likely be the general admission for the museum or attraction. It could be a physical location, whereas the event would be a guided tour or a lecture or a movie screening or things like that that happen on a certain date and time. Then we can decide if the capacity is to be limited by, or how the capacity is limited. So right now we're on admission, and we're saying that the capacity should be limited by the admission. So this is the line that's taken into consideration. And we can see the capacity control is set to none, so there is no capacity control, but we could also set a capacity control on the sales, so we can decide that we can only sell 100,000 tickets, and then the system will say no more, or we can set it for capacity on admitted, and that will only let 100,000 people in, although many more might have bought tickets for it. And this is, of course, the max capacity I'm referring to as the number. Then this default schedule setup is quite interesting, and I'll give you an example when we look at the POS at the end. But the system generates the time slots for when you access, and you can have the POS pop up with a message saying that the time slot has a schedule entry required, so you have to choose it yourself, or that it takes the next available or today. And that makes more sense to go into have a look at again when we look at the POS. So once we've decided what we have access to, we want to look at the ticket schedule to define when this ticket gives access. And so the ticket schedule could be of a number of different things. Here in this one, we've got the general ticket schedule for entrance. It's set as a location, and it's set for open, and we can set a starting date and define if it has a specific ending date or a specific amount of occurrences, or just runs indefinitely. And then we can set up if it's something, usually for this general admittance, it occurs every week, but we could be in a situation where something happens every 7 days or 13 days or something like that, and then we can actually build that recurrence pattern with using these two fields. Then we've got starting time and ending time, and the system is pretty rigid about this. So we've had some examples from Kunsten in Aalborg where they had the opening times from 10 to 5, and then there was a Friday there where they had a special event from 5 to 8. But when they scanned the tickets at 5:01, they got an error because the system said, well, the ticket is valid until 5 o'clock, and now it's 5:01 and you're not allowed to enter. So it's pretty important to have the customers understand that the system takes the starting and stopping time very literal, and gives errors when you don't follow it. Then on the schedule, we can define if the schedule is valid or is to be used on specific weekdays. So we define that we check which weekdays that the ticket should be used for. So in this situation, we've got one schedule set for Monday to Friday and a different one for the weekend, because they have they close earlier in the weekends. And the ticket admission and the schedule, so what we have access to and when we have access to it, is combined in this ticket object schedule. So it creates the time slots that are actually being sold. And let's have a look. So for this one, for the general entrance, we've got the admission code Experimentarium, we've got the schedule code Entrée, and it's generated schedules for all the way to the 9th of June because we've set the pre-booking to 3 months. So this means that we can, in theory, we can buy a ticket. If we were to select a specific date for this normal entry ticket, we could buy a ticket all the way until 9th of June, but we couldn't buy a ticket for which is valid on the 10th of June. Now, so what we sell in the POS are these schedule entries, and for this we have to allow it to think a little bit. So for every date and time set up in the schedule, there is a line created here, and this is what you buy access to when you buy a ticket. And this has registration of how many have bought tickets. If it's an event, it will show the amount of reservations. And if for when people start to scan in and arrive on a certain date or time, then it will register the admitted in this column. So by now you're probably somewhat confused about how all of this is set up, and I'm just going to add a little bit more to that confusion by saying the last one, the ticket bum. This is where we set up the price of the tickets. Yes. So the ticket bum, admission bum, is where we connect a ticket with an admission. So the ticket defines the price and how the ticket should be posted in NAV in general, and the price is and then there's the admission code with what it gives access to. Also on this, we've got the column defaults, and this refers back to something we saw on the ticket type. So on the activation method, we can define if it's activated POS, default admission, or all admissions. So since it's a ticket admission bum, we can set the same ticket, the same item number could have several lines with access to different admissions. If there are, you could buy a ticket which gives access to general admission, and the same ticket gives access to a guided tour or a lecture or a movie screening or something like that. So it would have several admission code references, and marking one of them as the default would be beneficial when you scan it for activation in the POS. Also, we can define if it's a single entry or a same day or a multiple. So single, of course, means you can only scan the ticket once and then it's invalid. Same day means the system will allow the ticket to be scanned multiple times on the same date based on the first activation. And multiple means that you set a fixed amount of scans that are possible with this ticket. So you could buy 10 visits to a museum or something like that you could sell tickets for. Yeah. So a lot of different things, a lot of different pages to go through to set up the different tickets, but once they are set up, there would most likely be small changes along the way, but not as much as the initial setup. So if we have a look at, we took a look at Experimentarium, let's have a look at Brands. So they have ticket admission they have different locations and different events. So they've got a Disney location and a general admission, and they've got events with a family concert, and which is controlled on the schedule. That could be interesting to have a look at. So if we go into the schedules and let's have a look. So this schedule, I'm guessing, connects to the other one. I can verify this by going to the admission schedules where the two are combined, and that is correct. So based on this, on the admission, we also saw that this one. We also saw that the capacity should be limited by the schedule. So when we look at the schedule here, at the very end of this line, we set the schedule. We'll try this instead. There we go. So there's a max capacity of 60 on this schedule, and it's controlled by the sales. And it's only something that happens Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah, let's see the time. Okay, I have to move on. We'll have a look at some questions later on. Actually, no, there's one more thing I want to show you, because if we look at Repark, they are selling, they've got a train and they've got a safari tour, so and they've got low season and high season, and that gives us a really, really long list of admission schedules, because we have to define, this is the train, so we have to express, it's called, so we have to define a schedule for every time slot, 10:30. On the schedule itself, we can, of course, define that this is something that happens from the 24th of June until the 7th of July, and it happens Monday every weekday, actually. It happens only 30 minutes, but because it happens, because they have several time slots in a day, we have to create one line for 10:30, one for 11, 11:30, and so on, and combine them all with the admission code for the train, which results in a lot of lines in this combination. And yeah, so that could, and in turn, this also gives for a lot of lines in the schedule entries, because for each line here, we have 7 lines per week set up in the schedule entry. So this table schedule entries includes a lot of time slots, which are the ones that you buy access to. Yes. So how does this look online? Well, before we, there are two things for the online tickets that I want to show. And one is the design, and the other one is how the tickets, what the tickets look like. So in the POS or in NAV, we could see on the ticket type that there's a print object connected to it, and this print object is only used when the ticket is sold from the POS. But when we sell the tickets on the web shop, we want to make sure that we can set up some kind of design for the ticket there. Let me see, I've got it here. Our customers log in to their Magento backend, and from here go to the ticket manager. And here we can see a reference to the ticket type, which we saw in Navision. And the ticket that is sold online gets its design based on the ticket type. So there we have two options for designing the tickets online. We've got a desktop design or print design, and we've got a mobile design. So if we look at the general ticket web, I'll just, show a print preview. So this is what the ticket looks like. It's an A4 size paper, and we can define static text like this ticket is valid, blah, blah, blah. We can define variable sections such as the ticket number or the price or the ticket type and the barcode, of course. So there's a whole designing setup done in this where it reminds you of Photoshop or something like that. So if I have this static text, I could edit the text and define the font size and the font type and the color and many other things. And for the dynamic text such as price, I can define the same thing. We've got we've got different fixed dynamic fields that you can set in on the ticket. And then the interesting thing is also for the mobile tickets, we can set in an animation, which is comes in handy because that also limits the possibility of fraud. When you show your mobile ticket, if Experimentarium can't see it moving, then they know, and they can think the guest might have just taken a screenshot of the ticket and given it out to their friends and stuff. Plus it looks really fun that there is an animation on it. So that's some of the possibilities we have for the tickets, and or the online tickets. With the sizes of the tickets, we've got a fixed canvas size of an A4 paper, the quarter of an A4, so we can have 4 tickets on one print, and an A5. So these are some of the basic settings we have right now. And what does it look like when we buy tickets? Well, Experimentarium is a pretty good example of this. We've got the general admission tickets here. The design itself, of course, could look very different from customer to customer, but Experimentarium wanted to have the possibility of buying adult and child tickets on the same ticket. So these are set up with using the variants variety system in Navision, and you can just add on these. When you add it to carts, everything is fine, and only when you go when you proceed to payments, the web shop will talk with Navision and verify that it's actually possible to buy these tickets. There are still available tickets, or the time slot is still open, or other things like that. And then you fill out your information, and when you click on the proceed to payments, then it will ask Navision again and saying, now the customer actually wants to pay for this, are the tickets still there? And Nav will answer yes and allow the customer to enter the credit card details. And when the payment transaction is in place, the web shop will then say to Nav again, now there's a payment on these tickets and you should change the reservation on them to an actual ticket and issue them. And in that moment, the tickets will go from being reserved to actually being issued. And we'll see them on this issued ticket list. Also online, there's a possibility of choosing events. So in this situation, Experimentarium sells school tickets Monday to Friday in different time slots, so they can make sure that the kids come at different times and don't come all at once. And in this so you choose a date and the amount, and you add to cart and proceed as before. So we've got this ticket design with the calendar, and we've got a different design where you choose. I don't actually think I have examples of this from other customers right now. No. But the other way of showing the calendar would be that you choose your 2 children, 2 adults, and then it shows you when you have access to 4 tickets, and it gives you a list, a bullet point list of dates and times when this ticket could be valid, and you can make your choice based on that. Repark is a different one. So this doesn't have the calendar choice. This just says the validity period is within these dates, and because the ticket is set up with the with the admission and the schedule that we have from NAV, it will be only valid on these dates. So if I buy this now and then use it on June 24th or later, I will get an error, and they would be able to sell me a different ticket in the POS. So let's have a look at the POS, and this, I have it here. So this is just a demo shop I have, and I have different tickets set up. So there's a normal adult ticket that doesn't do anything. It just adds a line to the POS, and I can buy that. Now I'm not really sure how I get to. There we go. So I also have a concert, and there, when I click this, a pop-up appears, and I have to choose the schedule. This is what we saw before in the POS, or in NAV, sorry, on the ticket admission. The default schedule, if it's next available, as it was with the first ticket we tried to add, nothing happens. It just chooses the next available schedule entry in the system. But when it's set for schedule entry required, as this one is, then it pops up, and I have to choose when I want to actually visit. So, and I can see on this list the date and the time of this when the event starts, and how many are actually left. So on the 18th, there's already one who's bought a ticket, so I'll do the same. And then I can click OK to this. And I can change the quantity, because my family of 4 are actually visiting, and there are plenty of room. So I'll change that, and I can buy the tickets. I'll just pay with cash. And if I can click the right button, we'll have a look at what this actually looks like in NAV. And again, I'll just move this over. So this is my demo again. We'll look in the issued ticket list, and we can see that there's a valid from date with different, with today's, today is the 10th, so today's date, and they're valid for different periods of time. And if I look at tickets like this one, events, that would open a window on the other screen. There we go. So in this, it doesn't say much, but it just says that I've got a ticket which is valid for the admission event and a quantity 1. And if I look at the details, and I can see that this is this has a reservation remark here where it says it's valid for the 18th at 9 o'clock, and it has a reference to the schedule entry number that we saw this system makes. So if we just look at this. So these are all the schedule entries that are created based on the admission code and the schedule code that we set up. And I can see that there are 5 open reservations on this one right now. So again, I can continue digging into this. Whoops, need the window with me. There we go. So I can see that there are 5 reservations, the one we were looking at before, and these are the 4 tickets that I just bought right now, 11:31 for the time frame. So when let's try and use one of these tickets. So we've got this one. The external ticket number is the barcode on the ticket, so I'll just copy this and go back to my POS, and I've got set up an arrival button so I can validate when people are visiting. So I click the arrival and I scan in the ticket barcode, and I'm going to get an error because I bought a ticket which was for the 18th of March and today is the 10th. So of course it's not possible to use that today. And the other one I bought an adult ticket, and this is probably one of these. Let's see, this one I expect. And if I look at the access detailed, I can see that it actually it created the admission when I bought the ticket, because in the ticket type setup, it was set for POS. So after paying at 11:31, it issued the ticket and validated my entry. So we could have a look at going more into detail in this. Yeah. Good. Let's just see if I've got everything I wanted to say. English nav, please. Yeah, well, next time. It's the same. So we're getting close to the end of what I wanted to present, and it's been a speedy run through of what we can do with tickets. But in general, if we just summarize again, so there are an extensive amount of setup that can be done for the tickets, so you can have access to different rooms and guided tours and lectures and areas of the park or museum or anything like that on different schedules, time frames, days, and etc. with the ticket schedule. We combine those two with the admission object schedule, where we say that a given access is connected to a given schedule. And in the ticket bum, we were setting which tickets which item numbers should be sold to give access to the different admissions. And there are still some features I haven't gone through now, but I think I've said enough right now, at least. So I want to open up for questions, if there's anything anyone has questions for. We've got 4 people in the meeting room here. We've got 6 other attendees online, so maybe someone has questions.
Yes, Simon?
Yes.
Hello?
Hello.
I don't know if maybe you can show us briefly the ticket cross reference. I don't know if it's within the this presentation?
Oh, okay. Okay, sure. Actually, I want to suggest that I don't show it today because the ticket is it the ticket to membership reference you're talking about?
Yes, yes. I think the functionality where you buy a ticket and then you can exchange it for a membership.
Good. I will cover that in 3 weeks when we have the membership lesson.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, no.
No? Good, good. Well, thank you everyone for joining. And if you think of questions later on, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me and I'll try and answer them the best I can. And this should hopefully have given you just a brief introduction of what we can do with tickets, and yeah, you can ask me for further details when and if that's necessary. So have a nice day and nice weekend. Bye.